one piece of advice to somebody who's composing or one who's sort of struggling to that in that starting process? Because I'm sure when I'm not sure. I assume that once you have something there, that sometimes and you've started, ideas can then flow from that. And yes, you may end up on a completely different tangent, but at least you're on a road somewhere. But
Yeah.
that initial, I think for me, what seems to be would be the hardest point for me was, even if I have something that kick-starting, just getting something, that idea, that initial idea down. Is there anything you do or would advise anyone to do if they're struggling to get that to that point or into the piece?
Yeah, well, I think it's different for everyone, and in a way, it sort of chimes with what people's interests are. Because a lot of composers have particular go-tos that they
Mm.
use just to make some basic material. So a lot of people have talked quite a lot about using things like matrices, so basically pitch matrix kind of grids and things like that, basically taking the 12 notes and just going, right, okay, here we go. And it's a little bit like what I did with my motif plan that I
Mm.
showed you earlier, is that I took 12 notes and I went, okay, well, 4 times 3 is 12, 3 notes per piece. Now I'm going to just, find, a way of getting around this. I mean, that is one way of going about it. I mean, other people might choose to do that, but say, for example, with chords instead. And I think I've chosen to focus on pitches this time, partly because I think, well, out of all of the instruments, I mean, the piano is the one that is going to be the most chordally based. I'm not saying that the other three can't play chords. It's just not
Yeah.
something that I think is going to be 100%. Well, I'm not going to be in everyone's good books if I just write completely chordal pieces for
No.
violin, viola, cello. But obviously, chords are used. Chords are not just used as chords. Chords are used split. They're used as framework. They're used as ideas. And some people's minds think more like that, whereas I'm the kind of person who thinks more melodically. So I think, as a tip, I would say to the composer who, if the composer was struggling, I would say, what is it that really draws you to music? Is it melody, harmony, rhythm? What is it? And basically focus on that one thing first. Create something out of that, just that one idea. And in fact, because I teach composition at Junior Guildhall, and I run workshops for composers on Saturdays, usually during
Mm.
term time. And a lot of them come to me with this question. And I've actually run a series of workshops with them just focusing on rhythm, then focusing on melody, then focusing on harmony, focusing on timbre and texture. And I've said to them, can you create a piece using just these things? And they've all managed it. And it goes to show that if you just focus in on one area, then the other areas can feed into those areas. So yeah, I think it's important not to feel overwhelmed by all of the possibilities too quickly, because I think
Sure.
that tends to be what happens at the beginning of a piece, speaking from experience.
Great.